Been working on old Mercedes way back into the late 50s, and this, we're looking here at a 1970 model. They have what's called little ball sockets for all the throttle linkages, and it's a little socket that fits over a ball, and that's what gives you, your throttle movement. And this was used on both gasoline and diesel models. Well, everything's fine. A lot of times you can grab a hold of these and just pop them off with your hand, provided they've been well lubricated. But there's been a couple times when I've tried to remove these ball sockets on the throttle linkage that they just don't want to come off. You get a screwdriver in there and pry it, and what happens is you pry sideways on it, you can damage the ball socket and the spring that holds it in place. So I recently figured out that you can use this special tool here to take these ball sockets off with ease, particularly if they're really, really rusty. When they're really rusty, you can sit here and there's no way you can pull these off by hand. And sometimes you just don't have the right angle to get in there with a screwdriver to even pop them off. But what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to lubricate all these. I want to lubricate them with our special synthetic grease. And the only way you can do that is to remove them, clean them, and then lubricate them and snap them back on. So let me show you how I use this tool. At the same time, I'll show you how I apply this synthetic grease to the ball. For the purpose of illustration, I'm going to work on this particular linkage right here, and it has two ball sockets on each end of the linkage. We also have the pivot point right here that goes down underneath the manifold and over to the throttle pedal. So this is what actuates the throttle mechanism in this fuel injection system. Now these particular ball joints look pretty dry to me. So I'm going to begin by just trying to pull them off. And I'm going to give it some pretty good, man, this one doesn't want to come off. Let's get over here. No, I can't get that one off either by hand. Once again, I said I could probably get in here with a screwdriver and pop it off. That's how most of us have done it. But this one's kind of at a weird angle. See that? You really can't get a good screwdriver into there. So I prefer to use this tool because it prevents damage to the socket right here. Now watch as I just slip this in right here, right at that point, and then I just pop it off like that. And I'll reach over here, straighten this one out, keep it straight, and I'll just hold it there and then just pop it off. Okay, now you can see that it is pretty dry in here. It hasn't been lubricated. So I'm going to, first you want to clean it. I won't show the cleaning operation here, I'll just explain it. You can use a small angled acid brush. Notice how I've cut most of the bristles off. This makes a little scrub brush. I can take this over to a little solvent cleaner, a little diesel fuel, and just get in here and just wipe all the crud out of there. Really get that clean, and then come back here and brush this off and clean it off. These are pretty clean. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how we lubricate this one since I'm right here at the engine. Using just a small amount of synthetic grease. Now the reason I like synthetic grease is it holds up a lot better over time. It doesn't get gummy and sticky like regular petroleum grease. It also has a high resistance to moisture, and I've also found that it doesn't collect dirt and grit as badly as petroleum-based grease. So I'm just going to wipe a thin coat. You want to get quite a bit on here because you want it to fill the ball. Now I'll take the linkage right here and I'll do likewise. I'll go ahead and fill the synthetic. Don't worry about getting too much. If you get too much, it'll squeeze out, and then you can wipe that off with a shop rag. Okay, now that I've got this grease, watch how easily it snaps back in place once you've greased it. It'll just pop on and just pop on there. Okay, now you can work it around a little bit, and I recommend you come back and just take the excess off. You can use your finger or get a rag and just get rid of the excess so it's not collecting any excess dirt in the engine compartment. Now let's talk a little bit about this pivot point, this bushing and shaft right here, because this was a problem on this car when I acquired it. I would push the throttle down and the throttle would stick and it would stay open. That's a very dangerous condition. So you want to go through all your pivot points on your throttle system in your particular car and make sure they're working free. What I like to do, if they're real bad, you can remove them, clean them, and use synthetic grease. If you can't do that, I like to add a little bit of lubricant with this curved tip syringe. Once again, one of my favorite lubricating tools. And then you work this back and forth about 20-30 times and it's going to wick the lubricant. If you don't have any special penetrating lubricant like this, you can use, this isn't rust buster. This actually has a lubricating oil in it, so it is more than just a rust penetrant. All right. If you don't have this, I recommend using automatic transmission fluid. Dextron 3 makes a good lubricant as well for these pivot points. All right, so there it is. I'll go through the system now, do the rest of the linkage, and make sure all these points are adequately lubricated. If you're more interested in the tool, we sell the tool and the grease together with a couple acid brushes on my website. I'll just put a link below. You might be thinking, well, Kent, why bother to lubricate your linkages? Well, let me tell you, if they get sloppy, particularly on these old gasoline fuel-injected engines, you'll never get the engine running right. So you want to have tight ball sockets in every location, and the best way to determine and make sure that happens is to have tight lubricated ball sockets.